They laughed when he stepped onto the range, not just chuckles, open mockery. "Grandpa's here to cosplay," one recruit joked as the others turned to watch the old man with a limp dragging a scuffed rifle case. His jacket looked like it had survived 3 wars. His boots were more duct tape than leather. Nobody paid attention to the way his eyes scanned the field or the quiet weight of the weapon over his shoulder. Then came the shot, one clean crack, and everything stopped. The air shifted. Colonel Marcus Stone, watching from the gallery, stood up slowly, eyes narrowed, breath tight. Then he whispered the name that silenced the range. "That's Blue Viper. Ryden Quinn, 68 years old. Tall, lean, with silver hair cut short and a limp that told stories no mouth ever would. A thin, weathered face, beard faded grey. His left leg moved stiffly, shrapnel long ago. He wore a patched-up surplus jacket, shoulders sagging from age and memory. Over one shoulder hung a wooden M40A1. No digital scope, no bells, no tech. Just iron sights and the muscle memory of a man who didn't need second chances. He didn't speak as he checked in. Just offered a battered ID and a calm nod to the range officer who blinked twice, recognizing something. The range was buzzing with young blood, new recruits with shiny gear, expensive rifles, and enough arrogance to flood a city. Ryden stood out like a ghost among them. "Hey, did the Smithsonian lose a display?" One snickered. Another whispered, $20 says he can't even load it. Phones came out. Cameras rolled. They wanted to capture the moment the relic embarrassed himself. Ryden didn't flinch. He walked to his lane with the silence of a surgeon heading into his last operation. Each movement was deliberate. Chamber check, iron sights wiped, 5 rounds loaded, not a single one extra. That calm, exact ritual began to draw eyes. Not from recruits, but from Colonel Stone. Stone leaned forward. Something in Ryden's posture, too still, too refined, set off alarms in the Colonel's memory. Ryden ignored the snickers behind him as he stepped up to the line. The range officer offered him a digital scope. "Might help, sir," he said gently. Ryden didn't even look. "I only ever trusted one scope," he replied, "and I don't need it today." No rest, no bench, no fancy attachments. He stood free-handed, unsupported, feet shoulder width, breath even. The recruits laughed louder. "He's going to try this standing?" one scoffed. But the colonel leaned in closer. Something big was coming. He could feel it. Ryden raised the rifle. It settled into his grip like it belonged there, like it had waited 40 years to return home. His heartbeat slowed. The tremble in his hands vanished. For 10 seconds, he became motionless, reading wind, feeling the pressure, measuring with senses no computer could match. Then bang! The shot rang out like thunder cracking through calm. One round, just one. The range went silent. Even the wind seemed to pause. At the 100-meter mark, the bullseye didn't just have a hole. It had a perfect X sliced clean through the center. A slash so precise it looked surgical. Someone's water bottle hit the floor. A recruit whispered, "No way." Sergeant Miller, who'd mocked him loudest, stared through binoculars, hands shaking. "That's not possible," he stammered. "Not standing, not with iron sights." The range instructor stood up. "No damn way," he breathed. But the reaction from the gallery made the silence deeper. Colonel Stone rose to his feet. His face had gone pale. He looked at Ryden as if seeing a ghost. Then, without raising his voice, he said it. "That's him. That's Blue Viper." The name rolled through the range like a detonation. Phones dropped, jaws parted, everything changed. Some of the older range instructors recognized the name immediately. Blue Viper. A ghost story passed around camps, a name whispered in sniper schools, a legend no one truly believed in until now. Ryden calmly ejected the spent casing, slung his rifle back over his shoulder. No nod, no grin, no boast. Just silence as he walked past the recruits who'd mocked him seconds ago. Sergeant Miller stammered, "Sir, we didn't know." Ryden stopped, looked him in the eye. There was no anger, only experience. "Next time," he said quietly, "ask before you assume." And just like that, he walked off the line. The video Miller had filmed, the one meant to be a joke, hit the internet like a storm. Caption, "Old man shows up at range." They laughed until this happened. Within hours, veterans flooded the comments. "Holy hell, that's Blue Viper." My instructor said he was a myth. He trained my CO. Stories poured in from every corner of the armed forces. Ryden Quinn, real name, real legend, was suddenly back in the conversation, and with him came the truth. He'd spent 15 years in Black Ops, missions that didn't exist, confirmations that were never confirmed, and every kill logged only in memory. Because that's how legends operate. He wasn't just a sniper, he trained over 200 of them, soldiers who'd become legends themselves. But none ever matched the original. Stories told in hushed voices. He once hit targets from a moving helicopter, once held off a battalion with 12 bullets. But the story that defined him, Afghanistan, 2003. A Navy SEAL team pinned in a valley. Air support 40 minutes out, too far, too late. Ryden positioned 800 meters away. 27 minutes, 23 shots, 23 kills. Not one SEAL died. When asked how he did it, he said, "I just kept pulling the trigger until our boys were safe." In 2005, it ended. Somalia. A mission gone wrong. His spotter, Staff Sergeant David Chen, was killed by a bomb that shouldn't have been there. Bad intel. Ryden carried his body 2 miles through hostile ground, no backup, no words. When he returned to base, he laid his rifle on the CO's desk. "I'm done." He refused every medal, declined every promotion, turned his back on ceremony, then disappeared. No one saw him again until that video. And suddenly, a man who had tried to vanish quietly found the world remembering what real power looks like: humble, deadly, and precise. A week after the video, Miller and 3 recruits found a small mountain cabin. They knocked. Ryden answered. Miller swallowed hard. "Sir, I didn't know. I should have never laughed." Ryden studied them. They looked like kids, scared, humbled. "Don't be sorry," he said. "Just learn who not to laugh at before you know how they aim." He invited them in, made coffee, spent 2 hours teaching them breathing control, wind calls, patience. As they left, Miller asked, "Would you ever come back?" "Teach again." Ryden smiled, a quiet smile. "I never really left. I just got quieter." 2 months later, the range was renamed, the Quinn Line. A new plaque stood at its entrance. Silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's just confidence. Recruits learned fast what that meant. Ryden never gave speeches, never showed off. But sometimes, on quiet afternoons, you'd see him on that same bench, cleaning his rifle, watching the sun fall across the concrete. Occasionally, a trainee brave enough to ask a question would walk away with a lesson they'd remember for life. When he hit 5 perfect shots in a row, the officers rang a small bell. They called it Viper's Bell. He didn't care for attention, never did. He refused every interview request, turned down documentary crews, and ignored medal ceremonies. But he kept showing up. Quietly, consistently. And when he really fired, the entire range would fall still. Because that's what happens when you witness excellence, real excellence. Not showmanship, not tech, just raw, earned mastery. Some said he'd become a myth again, but others knew better. Ryden Quinn was still teaching, 1 shot at a time, and on that range, in that silence, every trainee understood. Legends don't need to speak. Their aim does it for them. He never came to prove anything, he just came. And when the room laughed, he let the rifle do the talking. In a world that judges fast and forgets even faster, he waited. Aimed, fired, once, that's all it took. No ceremony, no explanation, just 1 perfect shot. The recruits who laughed that day walked away with something they didn't expect, a lesson about judgment, respect, and humility. Because legends, they don't look like legends. They look like tired old men with limp walks and stitched jackets. Until they step to the line and show you what greatness really looks like.